Hello, Shannon here from an appropriate amount of soup. This week we don't have an episode, we're running things fortnightly, but it's a little bit of bonus material for you all. I have found my first ever short story that I published, and I thought I would read it out to you all. So, without much further ado, here is Chronicle of a Dying Man, written some 10, 15 plus years ago as I get older and older. Hope you enjoy. Day 1 of 7. Death. Deadly, deadly death. It comes for us all, and despite various philosophies and theologies, jokes and eulogies, despite the tedium of academia and the revelry, it is generally considered something of a bad thing, and altogether rather final. Along with politics, religion, and that thing that Aunt Margaret did at the Christmas party, it should never be discussed in polite company, and the time of its arrival should never be known in advance, even if knowing seems like a splendid idea at the time. Knowing that death looms in every shadow is a terrifying ordeal. Whether close or distant, not knowing the time of our death allows us to set it aside as something that happens to other people. Knowing the time of our final day invites the phantom stranger, that looming presence of the Reaper, into our home and asks him to sit and just wait right there while I put the kettle on. In the end, the torment of waiting for the inevitable becomes a much heavier burden than death itself. I know the time of my death. Or should I say knew, as by the time that anybody reads this, it will be well after my demise. Trying to decide on a grammatical tense in these situations can be quite tricky, but I will endeavour to remain in present tense to avoid the reader any confusion from this point on, as I do hope for this work to act as a chronicle of my final days. With this said, I may occasionally need to approach conversation from the perspective of past tense. Curse you, English language, and your ridiculous rules of tense. Rather than spend more time discussing grammar, let me conclude this introduction. I recently discovered the time of my death. I won't bore you with the details on how I discovered this fact, as they are as convoluted as they are accurate. That is to say, they are both the most of what they can be of those two things. From this date forward, I will be keeping a chronicle of my last week alive. Perhaps it will go on to aid psychologists, or philosophers, or anyone who might be trying to decipher the human psyche. My one hope is that these notes will go on to keep my memory alive, well after I am gone. There is some small comfort in considering that someone might read my work years from now. I hope my writing is up to task and rightly expresses the waves and torrents of emotion that course through me in these days. Hopefully, I wax not too poetic. Also, I will end each day's notes with a quick recap of major events in bullet point form, for the time-savvy consumer. I suppose now is the appropriate time for me to close these opening sentiments. I trust that this chronicle has found good hands, and hope that the thoughts contained herein are, if nothing else, at least in some small way of interest to the reader. Notes. Wrote an introduction to my chronicle. Accepted a grisly fate. Day 2 of 7. I wasted a day. Of all the stupid things that I have done in my life, perhaps this was the worst. I was foolish enough to squander one of my few remaining days. I guess it's hard to break out of routines that have been ingrained for years, but I would have thought that a death sentence would be ample motivation. To be honest, I expected a complete spectrum shift. The air should have tasted sweeter, the grass should have been greener, and the world should have been filled with the wonder and whimsy of a youth long since past. Perhaps I was better able to appreciate the cinematography in a M.A.S.H rerun today, but it failed to fill me with whimsy. Well, I suppose Hawkeye fills me with a little bit of whimsy. I shouldn't be overly surprised though. All through the world, people do this for most every day of their lives, wasting time on small pleasures instead of achieving anything of real significance. Before I knew that my life was extremely limited, I was prepared to spend my days at work and my nights quietly watching a movie. Now my life has an expiry date. I'm no longer content with that. Why? Was I any less mortal before? On any other day that might have passed, I could have breathed my last breath, and I would have been satisfied with my accomplishments. Why must the notion of death bring about so many insecurities? Surely I haven't failed in my life because I didn't achieve fame or fortune. Am I damned for never finding true love? I argue that my life of quiet joys is no less rewarding or meaningful for not reaching dizzying heights. I was happy. No, I am happy. That's more than can be said about the life of Van Gogh. Wild. I don't know much about Da Vinci, but I'm sure he was unhappy too. You can tell because he always looks so sad in portraits. So, in the end, who is the real genius? The brilliant artist or the happy simpleton? That's me. Genius simpleton. With all of that said, I suppose I will attempt some new things in my remaining days. Truth be told, I can't think of why I shouldn't. I have nothing to lose in all this. I have nothing to gain either, but that's besides the point. I'll be dead either way. Unless I have a soul, in which case I might not be as dead as I expect, but still somewhat more dead than I currently am, or was. The prospect of an afterlife makes this whole thing much more confusing. When I meet with God, I might suggest that if he ever gives the whole human project a second shot, that he simplifies the thing. For example, are multiple planes of existence and reality all that necessary? Condensing them down into one physical material world would surely be easier. At times, I think the all-powerful creator of the cosmos was just showing off. Take a blade of grass, for example. Seemingly, it's very simple. It is just a little green thing that sticks out of the ground to be eaten by animals. But at a cellular level, the biomolecule, chlorophyll, allows this simple blade of grass to harness energy from an awesome, raging, burning ball of gas that floats in space, billions of miles away, all so that it can continue to grow and be eaten by a cow. Surely that's slightly over the top. Maybe in that small way I have achieved greatness already. Every part of my body is a complex wonder, which makes up one unique whole. That's pretty inspiring. It would be even more inspiring if I weren't going to die in 5 days. All that complex wonder will soon cease. Maybe tomorrow I will try and achieve something that will benefit all the people I leave behind. Maybe in the end, that's what it means to be successful in life, even if true happiness can only come from watching M.A.S.H. Notes. Watched M.A.S.H. pre-Alan Alda's melancholic directing. Made important life decisions about attempting to be successful. Considered the arts and religion, slowly becoming a top-notch philosopher. Day 3 of 7. I tried my hand at the arts today. It is safe to declare that I failed to achieve artistic greatness. It would appear that one cannot simply bypass the years of honing one's craft simply because one does not have years in which to proceed with the honing process. I did paint a delightful butterfly though. I was able to skillfully create a symmetrical pattern in the piece by folding the page once I had painted half of the butterfly with a finger. This technique was originally demonstrated to me by the amazing artist Miss Kelly, who taught my kindergarten class. Today I believe that I would have made her proud. Perhaps I could sell the whole thing off as a postmodern art exercise in which the kindergarten butterfly isn't the true piece of art. The real art is the attempted imagery from an untrained dying man. The sad truth is, that would likely sell for millions of dollars. Maybe that was half of my problem today. How in the world am I to create an incredible piece of modern art when I find modern art to be contemptible at best? I should note that when I say modern art, I of course am referring to postmodern art, which is titled as stupidly as it appears as an art form. Surely I'm not the first person to be incensed by the term postmodern. The only art I will be prepared to accept as postmodern is any piece that has been sent back in time after it has been created. I imagine that by that time, people will actually be able to accurately paint the things they are looking at. I also hope that by this time, a row of toilets in a vacant block will be considered waste disposal and not art. Perhaps in some small way I am being too harsh. To be honest, I don't truly hate postmodernity. I think today has simply been an upsetting, frustrating day. Something inside of me truly believed that I would be able to create something spectacular today. I think that may be one of those thoughts that float around most people's heads, and that idea that I am indeed special, and if I attempted, I'm sure that I could achieve anything. When I started out this morning, I thought I can be as creative as anyone. Well, I can't. It's a lie. I am perfectly average, and after the things I said yesterday about being fine because I'm happy, it stings knowing how much this is upsetting me. I'm not happy. Not when I sit this far away from achieving anything. When I take the day as it comes, I waste it. When I attempt something bold and new, somehow I still manage to waste the day. At least writing is cathartic. But the truth of it is, no one will ever read these notes. They'll just sit there on my desk and float around until eventually my house is sold and this chronicle, or what has become a journal, is thrown away. Then who will remember me? Who will miss me when I'm gone? Sure, some of the boys from work will likely be sad for a week or so, but eventually they'll move on. People always move on. The world would be just fine without me in it. It's not fair. The world shouldn't get to go on revolving around someone else. It revolves around me. I'm the hero, the good guy, the lead, the protagonist. When I go, this whole messed up ball of hate and filth should be disposed of right with me. Then it won't matter whether anyone remembers me or not, because there will be no one left to remember. I think I'm starting to feel a little bit scared. I don't want to go before I do something worth doing. When I was a child, I would turn off the light in the hall on my way to my room at night. The second that light was off, a sense of sheer terror would fill my body. As the darkness struck, I would race as quickly as I could to my room, pushing the door shut in one movement as I dived under the sheets. To safety, to warmth, where the monsters could never harm me. It's what I really want now. Just want to go to bed. Notes. I discovered that I am terrible at art. This is likely due to having no training or practice. Despite this, I created a beautiful butterfly painting. I contemplated postmodern art and am yet to decide whether it can be considered a legitimate art form. Also decided that I do not know enough about art to make a judgment call on postmodernity. Day 4 of 7. I'm in love. Sure, maybe it's too soon to be in love, but in my circumstances, I'm sure my haste can be forgiven. She's lovely and beautiful, and I think her name is Emily, or Cynthia, or something else. All I can say for certain is that she is the one, the girl that I want to spend the rest of my life with. It's a very fortunate thing that 3 days just isn't enough time to be able to see the negative parts of a person. My relationship with what's her name can only be good. I don't think I even need to feel saddened about never finding someone to settle down with, raise a family, and grow old with. This is the fun part of love, right? That sudden infatuation. It's why desperate singles go out every weekend, seeking that one-off encounter. The chase and capture is the lewd cornerstone of romance. Now, that's not to say that I'm against the idea of a long-term relationship. On the contrary, the gaining of trust and continual companionship of a life spent together is surely a wonderful and beautiful thing. But what is anyone's chance of achieving that? Mine must now be significantly lower, but even if I weren't to die, could someone love me for a lifetime? Could I love them? I struggle to finish a film. How could I ever see out a relationship? I think I might be lucky. I'll never have to wonder. Stop. I have to stop thinking about it. I can't have today's entry become as melancholy as yesterday's. Truth be told, reality is really starting to weigh down on me. This is really it. My last week. Emma. Her name is Emma. She has lovely blonde hair, which now that I think of it may actually be more of a brown. She has an incredible smile though, and a good sense of humour. The sort that is incredibly contagious. I want to spend every waking minute with her, which is quite a few actually, as I appear to have stopped sleeping. No matter, I'll make up for that sleep debt soon enough. I'm not sure if that last sentence will come across as funny or morbid. I'm not too sure of very much at all at the moment. except for Emma. She helps to balance everything out. When I'm with her, it's the only time that I actually feel normal. It's as if my life is happily ticking away at the same rate as everyone else's. Maybe that's what keeps drawing me to her. Perhaps in all, mine is a selfish love. I take normality from her, and she has been taking romance and excitement from me. Neither of us is really giving anything. Perhaps that's the big difference between a new infatuation and a consistent, settled, true love. Being together with someone for a long time must take selfless abandon, committed sacrifice on a daily basis, or else the relationship dies. Every day the love is able to grow stronger by what is given up, not from what is gained. I guess that's one of the reasons some people still strive for it, as difficult an idea as it might seem. If you can change your character to be selfless, you can actually find true love. And when in the world did I become so soppy and overdramatic? Doesn't really matter. Emma and I had a great time, and I'm seeing her again tomorrow. She makes these days seem like they might just go ahead and continue on forever. I mean that in a good way. Wait, maybe her name is Emily. Notes. Found true love with some lady I met. Confident her name is Emma. Got a haircut? I'm looking good. Day 5 of 7. I've done a lot of thinking about God lately. I can't really place my finger on why. Perhaps it's the imminent death thing. I seem to find myself jumping between extremes of faith and unbelief, and I can't lock myself down to one definitive decision. Maybe it's one of those things that we're just not meant to know, or maybe I have insufficient data, or maybe only allowing myself time to think about these things as a background process while I ride roller coasters is ridiculous. Though surely a dying man taking 5 minutes out of his remaining hours to ride a ghost train is apropos. The man who grabbed my arm scared the hell out of me. I don't know why though. What was he going to do? Kill me? I told Emma about some of these thoughts, but she doesn't know that I'm dying, so she only assumes that I'm following the standard middle-class, middle-aged Western ideal of branching out my spirituality. In reality, I'd likely follow any god who can help me. If Jesus had to die, though, what chance have I got? Christianity just proves that all of us are eventually going to die. Even gods. Well, perhaps I'm being slightly facetious. Yet, I also refuse to believe that death is the end of everything. This universe is too perfect, humanity too simply complex. There's something remarkably beautiful about this life, and in part, I believe it's the sense of the other. The yearning for what is still yet to be that makes the world so truly spectacular. I think I might like God. I mean, I don't understand all the wacky rules and whatnot, but I highly expect that no one does. The more someone claims that they do understand, the more they seem to have an uncanny deviance from the godly characteristics of mercy and love. But that idea is pretty good, isn't it? Mercy? What a wonderful idea. I don't know how you make it work without letting yourself be taken advantage of, though. But I suppose if someone can make it work, it's the big magic man in the sky. Anyway, enough of that for now. If I do wind up making my way into a heaven, it won't be because of anything that I've ever done. Still, despite the thoughts of the supernatural, the fare was rather delightful today. It has become abundantly clear that I am terrible at parlour games, though. But fortunately, Emma seems not to mind. I'd love to be able to win at the strength test, in which you must launch a piece of metal into a bell after hitting a platform with a hammer. Surely this has to be mankind's greatest yearning since the dawn of time, to not only lift the heavy thing, but to then use the heavy thing in order to strike another thing. That other thing doesn't necessarily need to hold any significance other than the fact that it is readily available to be struck. Unfortunately, my strength only availed me so far. I was able to make halfway to the bell, but no further. Just when I thought having upper body strength was becoming redundant, it came back to haunt me for one last time. Emma was good about the whole thing, though. She didn't laugh at me once. She seemed even more upbeat when I made the startling discovery that I didn't need to win her that plush bear. I could simply purchase it from one of the stalls. After seeing that look of joy on her face, I can safely say this. If wherever I go in the hereafter, I can still feel loss, I will always miss Emma. with everything that is within me. Perhaps if there is no afterlife, that might not be a terrible thing. Notes. Went to a fair with Emma. Discovered that my strength is poor at best. Bought a plushed bear. Became a wise theologian. Day 6 of 7. Today I wrote a poem. It doesn't stand up against the great writers of the last 100 years. Hell, it doesn't even stand up to the great writers of this decade. It may not even stand up against the poem my nephew wrote in the 6th grade, but I liked it, and I guess that makes me happy. It goes as follows. There once was a man who lived on his own, upon the waves where his feet would roam, and though the waves threw him about, he always chose his path and route. Happy he was with the sea. Then loneliness did start to come upon the man when yearning looked, and found his old friend the sun had long before that day gone down. The stars had passed him since then too. In his heart of hearts he knew they would not return. No, they would not return to him. No force of will or bargaining, and so the fates would find the man, a man forever on his own, his hair grown out, his body frail, his feet still wandering on the sea, but there was no one left to be, ever as alone as he. So perhaps the rhyming couplets are a bit Dr. Seuss, but people like Dr. Seuss, so it should be fine. I've said it before in this journal, but I don't expect anyone to actually read the poem anyway. I am thoroughly alone. If you haven't gathered yet, the lonely man in the poem represents me. It was all very subtle. I left Emma today. It wasn't fair to put her through these next few days. All I wanted to do was to tell her that I love her. I'd pay anything to have her by my side when the end comes. It wouldn't be right, though. I couldn't do that to her, and I won't. I keep telling myself that if I somehow live past tomorrow, I'm going to marry that girl. I'll start a family with her and then spend every day with my wife and children. There's no other life worth living. I've decided that the long-term relationship trumps the short-term infatuation. But the chances of that life coming about are slim. I'm going to die. That's about all there is to it. I've tried to keep a light tone through this journal, throwing in a few jokes here and there, but if I were to be really honest with you, if I were really honest with myself, I'm scared. I'm so very scared, and I don't know what to do. I don't want to die. I never really had the chance to live yet. It's unfair that it has to be me. There are murderers, rapists, men who beat their wives, their children, and I'm the one who has to die? I never did anything wrong. I never did anything at all. I don't want to go. They say that the final response a person has to a tragedy is acceptance. I should at least be given enough days that I am able to accept my death. I didn't want to go out of this world begging and weeping, but through the pages of this chronicle, my fear has slowly seeped in. It did it bit by bit until now. The dam has burst, and I don't care about leaving something behind anymore. I just want to stay. I don't think I can do it. I can't just accept death. I won't roll over and die. I'm going to change the script. I don't care if my death is an absolute. I'm not going through with it. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up. I'm going to go to Emma's house, and I'm going to ask her to marry me. Then we are both going to get into my car, and we are going to find somewhere that we can be wed then and there. After that, the world will be ours. Holidays, children, day trips and exploring. Whatever we decide to do, we will do. I refuse to die. I promise you this. I am going to live, and I'm going to do it with my wife at my side. Notes. Decided to get married and start a family. Day 7 of 7.